All right, Miles, let's talk about the Green Bay Packers. This is a team we haven't talked about them in a little while, but I tell you what, this is kind of an interesting team, right? We saw Christian Watson's finally pick up a little speed. He's getting involved in the pass game. Huge day against Dallas a few weeks ago. Pretty productive against the Titans as well. We're starting to see this passing offense, at least these receivers, start to get a little bit more help for Aaron Rodgers. But there's been a lot of criticism on Aaron Rodgers. But I know you have some specifics about Rodgers that shows that maybe this criticism really isn't warranted, or there may be more to this story. But before I hand it over to you to talk about it, Packers fans, we want to hear from you in the comment section below. Look, it's been a rough start to the season, obviously losing a lot of close games. I know in a lot of those close losses, we've all of us have been there as fans. You always feel like you're just one player away. If we can just get one key player on our team, we would have turned that close game around. But we want to hear from you in the comment section below. Give us that one key player throughout the rest of the NFL that you wish was a Green Bay Packer, that you think would have turned some of those close losses early in the season into wins. Let us know who that guy is in the comments below. Miles, what do you have out of Green Bay?
Yeah, Nick. So when you hear about Aaron Rodgers this season, you hear people say things like, he's washed up. He hasn't looked about like himself. People go into talking about his mind was elsewhere in the offseason. He did ayahuasca or whatever the case may be. He's just not the same kind of guy. And if you listen to the media and if you listen to the news, you can let those things get in your mind and think, this back-to-back MVP historic level of player, maybe he is having a down year, Nick. But if you go look at the stats, that is just not the case. This is a guy here, Nick, who is top 10 in passing yards. He's number 6 right now, 2,542 passing yards. He's top 5 in touchdowns, 19. His QBR is a 93.2. He's having a stellar season. And, all of this, Nick, on allegedly, there's reports out there that he's been playing this whole season with a broken thumb. Okay. So if this down year is Roger being top 5, top 10 in most quarterback categories, and having a career year for most quarterbacks, then I'll take a down Aaron Rodgers year any day of the week, Nick. But it's just crazy to me when this story comes out. This guy over at Sports Illustrated talking about Rodgers is washed and going into all of these things as to why. But what does being washed mean when you're in the top 5 in stats for most quarterbacks? Top 10 in some. Rodgers is having a really great season, apparently playing injured as well. This just seems like a special player, and I just don't understand the criticism here, Nick. What are your thoughts on Rodgers so far this season?
Well, just when you're coming off back-to-back MVPs, and look, Aaron Rodgers is the most efficient quarterback of all time. He's the all-time leader in passer rating. He's had, I think, the number 1 passer rating season in NFL history, if I'm not mistaken, when he won the MVP a number of years ago. Like I said, come off back-to-back MVPs the last 2 seasons. So when that is the standard, you can go from the best or second best, and you go to number 5 or number 6. It looks like a bad year. Right. But in reality, he's been fine. He hasn't been the problem. And I know there are some criticisms. There's, maybe it's been as accurate in some instances. But I think part of that is the issues they've had at receiver. A lot of that is timing. Look, you get rid of a guy like Devontae Adams, you're bound to see some production fall off. There's no surprise there. I'm glad to see Watson starting to make more plays and be more explosive. Losing Watson earlier in the year obviously hurt him. And let's not forget, now that we're talking about Watson, that on the very first offensive play of the season for the Packers, he had a 75-yard touchdown on an absolutely gorgeous throw by Rodgers that Watson unfortunately dropped. That game would have been completely different against the Vikings. Maybe they win that game, and it's a completely different field for this season. But look, a lot of the problems with the Packers is you look at records, right? For whatever reason, quarterbacks are judged by wins or losses. But the Packers have blown some leads, right? They blew a lead against Washington. They blew a lead against New York, right? Those are very winnable football games that they let slip out of them, slip out of their hands, right? They almost blew leads against Tampa and New England, right? So this is a defense that I thought was going to be spectacular coming into the season. It has not lived up to that billing. I think some injuries are part of the reason why. But I think, that is where more of the issue is, not Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers has played well. He hasn't played elite, but he hasn't played poorly. He's been a very good quarterback, like, obviously already is, because he's Aaron Rodgers. And I think you hit the nail right on the head. People are looking for excuses and reasons why the Packers are underperforming. Then you look on the defensive side of the ball. It's not Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, and if you even look at this offense, Nick, I think it's coming together quite nicely as of late. I think this is offense down the stretch that is going to get better every single game. Christian Watson, as we said, has been coming into his own. Randall Cobb, old reliable, old faithful, Rodgers, safety net, a target that he loves. Lazard is, the guy that everybody thought would be the number one guy on this team. You look in the backfield with Jones in the backfield. He's one of the top 10 running backs in the NFL right now. Really great rushing attack by Green Bay. Bakhtiari looks back to form. Uh, this O line is pretty solid for Green Bay. So I think overall, this offense is going to keep gelling, keep coming together, and keep getting better. The return of Dobbs, whenever he comes back from injury, if he comes back this season, I'm not sure exactly of his status at this point, but that's going to be some more icing on the cake. But I don't think we need to worry, like you said, about Rodgers. I don't think Rodgers is the problem. I don't think he's ever been the problem. Uh, I think this offense is going to get better. I hope that the defense, especially in the back end, starts to gel a little bit better. Maybe some of these younger guys start to step up a little bit, like Quay Walker. You will start seeing some more big plays out of him. I just think overall, Nick, that this is a Packers team that people are, like you said, pointing the finger, waving the blame at the absolutely the wrong person.
Yeah, because one of the things, and I actually to shout out the Joe Rogan podcast, I was listening to a long time ago Rogan podcast. I forget what it was, but he had somebody on, and I forget the reason why. It was some kind of editor of some paper or something, but that's not important. But he was talking about this guy, this guest, and it stuck with me. He said, as human beings and anything in life, we look for really big explanations for really big problems. So if you got a Packers, which has been a really, really good football team for a long time, obviously they went to NFC Championship games back to back years and lost in the divisional round last year. So it's been a playoff division winning team for a very long time. Aaron Rodgers has been great for a very long time leading this team. And suddenly this year they're 4-7 right now. We look for a big high level reason, like, oh, it's got to be something big and complex. It's got to be Rodgers. But like you said, Miles, the stats and data doesn't support that, right? That's just our human nature trying to find big problem, big cause, trying to link the two. That's not the case. Rodgers has been fine. It's been injuries on the O-line. This is a young team. They're relying on Dobbs. They're relying on Watson, Zach Tom. You talk about Quay Walker. I mean, I think there's another guy I'm missing too on defense that's been playing a lot. That's another young guy. This is a team that's just been a really young team that's had to rely on a lot of young guys. And they just lost close games. That's what happens. Right. It's not on the quarterback in those cases. It's just the reality of the situation. Look at any other team in the NFL that's gone through kind of a youth revolt. You go through some ups and downs. And I understand the criticism of Rodgers, and he had some bad games. I look at the Lions game mainly. Okay, he had a clunker, but he's been pretty good for most of the season. He's kept playing at a high level. And I think if the Packers can get more stable with these young guys as they get, first of all, get healthy, but two, get a little more experience under the belt, we'll start seeing the wins start to roll in from the Packers side. I don't know if it's enough to turn it into a playoff push, but I think they can turn this season into a real positive direction as these guys get more and more experience.